Alrighty. I want to talk a little bit about a few tactics, and these work good as troll tactics and whatnot, but a few weeks ago I came across, stuff on Saul Alinsky, and I saw this thing there, and it was fairly large. I ended up downloading it and watched it later, and it was a documentary on Saul Alinsky. And I'd heard of the book Rules for Radicals. I didn't really know, what it was about, who was who in the zoo, who Saul Alinsky was, or anything like that. And the long and short of it is a lot of this talk is just going to be based on Saul Alinsky style tactics, as, seen in the book Rules for Radicals. I watched a thing by Stefan Molyneux of Free Domain Radio, who you may know who I'm talking about. He's actually qualified philosopher, South African descent, who lives in Canada, and basically he done a big talk on the book after reading it, and I listened to that talk as well. Now, more recently, I've dealt with a millennial feminist who a girl who I suspect to be on a millennial feminist, third wave feminist, I assume, on a dating site. And the honest truth is, I went on this dating site to try and muster up a few girls who were interested in, getting a few free dresses, as I learned how to make dresses and skirts and stuff like that. Now, it's not a problem any longer. I've got a family member who's willing to do it. But in there, I didn't just have, ask some girls who are interested in being test models for me learning how to make dresses, and they get to keep everything I make. Not just normal girls, I included maternity dresses in there. It's just a little line, including maternity, and long and short of it is, that's why I was on this dating site. Now, I come across this girl who, some of them, holy fucking shit, they put their foot in it. There's a couple of things you notice. A lot of these girls have got absolutely zero clue how men think. Just fucking none. Just nothing. And, some of them, their ideas are formed, as many people form their ideas based on what they see. And of course they come across these guys who are hot, they make a move for them, and they just turn out to be fucking players, basically. And they just get used, abused, spat out, and then, all guys are cunts. I've actually seen profiles where it says all men should be killed, and I really speaking, I should have reported her instead, and this was a couple of years back, this one, I had a go at her, and she fucking reported me for harassment, dumb bitch. But that was a mistake on my tactical move. Now, this little feminist I come across, I blocked her, she's probably blocked me. I could respond, I'd lose my account if I respond, not that I give a fuck, because, it's like all these things, you just make another account and go again. But I don't need to waste time in my day to be an arsehole, necessarily. And the fact is that if you did type out a giant response and send it, it's only after you've typed it out, when you go to send, then it tells you this user has blocked you. And I've seen some stupid shit where they actually ask to talk to you, and you talk to them, and then they fucking block you. Well, look, why fucking ask to talk to me then, There's one site where you could put in a request that you're interested in talking to them, Anyway, long and short of it is, and some of them won't respond at all, and I'll get some straight. 2 times this weekend, girls just come on and say hi or hey there, and you respond, one was within 30 seconds, you get nothing back. You don't, just nothing. It's like they fucking, just disappear off the face of the earth as soon as they hit fucking send. A lot of strange shit like that, but, there's a lot of girls on there who got no fucking clue. But anyway, onto the subject. This particular one, they have conversation starter with this particular site. And, they have a little bio on themselves and they have conversation starter. And I've seen one of them have memes on what a boy should do when a girl's got a period. I mean, this is on the dating profile. I'm like, holy fucking shit, you're clueless. Like, why the fuck would you talk about your period on a dating profile? Like, just fucking leave it out, Really, seriously. Periods are like aliens. They might be out there, they probably are, but I certainly don't want contact with them and I don't want to fucking hear about them, It's one of those things. And this girl, conversation starters, what should they start talking about to get the ball, to break the ice, to get the ball rolling? Tell me your opinion on feminism. I thought, holy fucking cow, First wave feminism, I'll just give you a basic history of feminism. First wave feminism was based on girls having, voting rights and not having to walk 5 paces behind their husband and not sort of being a second-class citizen, which is fair enough. Second wave feminism was based on the idea of equal pay for women as for men, which, I agree with. Like, I'm a bit like what Trump said at the No Labels event. If you do as good a, you get the same pay if you do as good a job. I am a believer in that. I'm not a believer in artificially pumping up a woman's pay. There's a campaign in this country that, mothers who choose to work and then become mothers, they miss out 20 years off their workforce. So we've got to fill up their 401k to make it equivalent to a man who spent 45 years in the workforce versus 25 years in the workforce. Who the fuck is topping up their 401k? How many, the difference is, in some cases, $100,000. Like, who the fuck is going to pay that times every woman? It'll bankrupt the country. I don't think it's going to happen. But that's third wave feminism coming through, But second wave feminism was the idea that you didn't have to be a mother. You could also be a career woman. And if you were, you should get equal pay to a man on the hourly rate sort of thing to what a man was getting, which I agree with. And if they want to have a career, they can have a career, and, there's a bit of an argument as to, is it practical time-wise? And, there's cases like I see my sister who doesn't actually have a career, I wouldn't say, but helps a lot with my brother-in-law's business. While she's got 3 kids, she's absolutely run off her feet. She's lucky if she's got 10 minutes to spare, literally. And very, very busy person. But, there's been questions raised about, like, these girls who chase a career and then they wake up at age 38, 40 and then say, well, now I want kids. And then by the time they fart ass around on these dating sites, finally get a man, they're 45 and they're lucky if they can even get pregnant, Then they're going to try and use IVF and every other damn thing, And a fair bit of that is tax. Sometimes, in certain instances, it can be taxpayer funded in this country. Not all the time, though, for IVF. A lot of it isn't. And so the long and short of it is that, that was second wave feminism. You can be a career girl. You should get equal pay. You should be able to work your way up the company as a man does, based on your merit of how good you do your job and all that. Third wave feminism, which is what I suspect this millennial was, because almost all millennial feminists will be third wave feminists. They sort of now it's got to the point of more or less absolute prejudice, to the point of fucking KKK racism, where a woman should be promoted over a man just because she's a woman. and now women that are being promoted into roles that they are completely unqualified for. They don't have one shred of qualifications, and yet they're promoted into a role that really requires you to be qualified. And they're jumping ahead of the men purely because they're a woman. It's gone the other way. It's like you call it reverse racism, if you will. It's gone the complete other direction, where it is they've become the ones who are overprivileged and are, it's not based on equality, it's based on them being above a man and always getting higher than a man, and the man then becomes disadvantaged. My sister saw this when she's in university, where people could put in for like a scholarship, and basically you had girls who were fucking hopeless and wouldn't even give a shit about studying, that were given it, over boys who were very enthusiastic and passionate about what they wanted to do, but they were just from a poor area of the city and couldn't afford to do it. And it was almost like it was impossible to get a scholarship if you're a boy, because, we're helping girls out. So you had these girls who wouldn't turn up to half the damn classes who got a scholarship over boys who were passionate about it but just couldn't afford it, and that's your third wave feminism. Now, how it transpired was she had this, little thing in conversation starters. Tell me your opinion of feminism. I thought, oh, fuck me, girl. You just shot yourself in the foot. This is as bad as the girl talking about a period, with a period meme on a fucking dating. I said, I'll tell you my opinion of feminism. As soon as you mention feminism on your dating profile, 95% of the guys who would have talked to you suddenly change their mind and won't bother talking to you. Simple as that. You've really lowered your chances. And, I got the typical angry little feminist knee-jerk reaction, the same one you get from girls who are fairly bitter and absolutely certain that they're right all the time, no matter what. That sort of part of the idea that you get with third wave feminism is, it's like social justice warrior grade stuff. They're hand in hand. They're just about one and the same in a lot of ways. And it is that everyone else is wrong, society is wrong, and I'm going to dig my heels in until society changes. And you get that real denial is a real strong part of it. And basically it just come back, well, you're wrong. I get more men talking to me since I've put that up. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, okay. So we're talking about the way men think here, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, rightio. And I just thought, well, I won't provoke her. I'll just say, you sure it wasn't a change in photos? So I said that to her. You sure you didn't change your photos? Because if you change your photos, that can often bring in a whole cluster more, people into your profile if your main photo goes from a fairly, shit one to a good one. I said, well, maybe you change your photos, because that can increase, the amount of guys that will respond to you. So I wasn't playing hardball at that point. And then she comes back and says to me, no, I didn't change my photos. And she's gone and read my profile. And then she's gone, just admit it, you're one of those sick, twisted fucks who is only pretending to make dresses so you can rub up against and touch a pregnant woman's body. Oh, fucking drinking much, bitch, you what? Now, the first thing that you have to do to deal with these sort of fucking idiots and troll these idiots is you don't have an emotional trigger. You aren't triggered by their bullshit. Because, see, they're doing this to try and push your buttons. Because part of their tactics is, and, you know, I've seen this even in protests, justice for Isaiah, justice for Isaiah. What they do is they do shit to provoke violence. Then when violence happens, or abuse or swearing at them or whatever happens, then they turn around and go, oh, look, they're violent, look what they've done, they're this, that, the other, oh, that's disgraceful. So they deliberately try to provoke something. When it finally occurs, then they take the moral high ground and say that the other person is disgraceful for acting that way, but they've actually started the provoking. Now, I'll be honest, you know, I did start the conversation here, but she's come out like that. But if people fuck with you like that, you don't have an emotional response to it. You don't get triggered by it. Because you got to realise that a lot of the Saul Alinsky shit is all based on emotion. Now, it works like this. They can't fight on moral ground. They can't fight on morals. Because they've got none. It's going to be a losing tactic if they fight on morals. So what they do is they don't fight on morals. You know, why play a game and play it in a way where you're guaranteed to lose? They know they're going to lose on morality grounds. They know they're going to lose on logical arguments, so they cannot play on logical arguments and moral grounds. So they don't play it that way, you know, because it's a losing hand of cards. You know, it's going to fuck up. It's going to backfire. So what they do is they always run on emotion and accusations and shit like that. And another one they do, there's another little tactic where, and you can see she's done it here, in effect. They never defend themselves. You are wasting time defending yourself on moral grounds. Now, I know as conservatives, as people who believe in personal responsibility, no e-bigging, and people fucking getting off their ass and getting a fucking job to provide for themselves, I know that we feel that we, you know, are generally inclined to fight back with logical arguments or moral arguments. It doesn't work that way. They don't run like that. They never run like that. In fact, if they get attacked, they never respond trying to defend themselves. They never try to legitimize themselves. They never try to defend themselves, because it's just a waste of fucking time. What they do is they deflect. Now, some of you will know about Mr. Ferry Meadow and one of his biggest supporters, who we will call Faternity at Law. You know who I'm talking about. When I had my fucking Ferry Meadow red pill moment, and, you know, realised that, thanks to Tony Mullins actually, that a lot of this, it really was thanks to Tony Mullins, that a lot of this stuff, you know, he was doing was bullshit. You know, I said something and basically I ended up cascading into an argument with her. And every time you try and put a logical point, that fat bitch would always deflect or try and bounce it off, or, well, it's not about that. Oh, well, it's about this. It was almost like they try and change the subject every time that you fucking bring it up. Like, they can't give you a solid answer that's refutable and grounded in logic and fact. So what they do is they deflect it. It's almost like they change the subject, or they turn around, well, that's not important, you know. Well, first it was important when you were arguing it one fucking message ago. Now I've had a response. Now you deflected. It's not important. It's this, it's that, or it's blah, 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 or fucking da-da, or you're blowing it up worse than it is, or, you know, some other bullshit. They always deflect. They never, you know, they avoid taking a direct hit. Because then they'd be fucked. Then you would have 1 point up on them. So they can't take a direct hit. They just got to deflect. So they never defend themselves. They always deflect anything that you say, and then they always attack. And that's their main tactic, is they get ahead just by constant attack, and if anything comes back at them, they deflect it. You know, and and they never defend themselves because that's a waste of time. Because then they get grovelled into one of these logical arguments based on facts of who did what and who said what and who gave who what money and blah blah. You know, and any of the lies that were claimed in order to get this e-begging money, like a brain tumour or whatever the fuck it is this time, broken ribs, who knows what, bad tooth, whatever. So this is some of the tricks they use. Now, she come back with me with that. At that point, I blocked her, and she's probably already blocked me as soon as she sent it, because that's what they do on Twitter and on Tumblr and all this shit. They just, just block people. Then they don't have to, deal with it. It's sort of like, it's a bit like they open the door, they fire the cannon, and they close the door again before there's any return shot. Sort of thing. It's just they fire. They use all the features of an app to, block and block, but they'll unblock just to fire, then to reblock you, all shit like that. So I could have then come back with, something along the lines of, Jesus Christ, that sort of response could only come from a angry, bitter, twisted, selfish little third-wave feminist who cries herself to sleep every night. And then I'll probably follow up by saying, well, and I'm not going to send all this shit, it's really just a waste of fucking time, and I'd lose my account, Pigs like fighting in mud. How long do you want to fight for? Because they've got all day to fight, and quite honestly, you're fighting with someone who's just not full of logic and full of shit, and there's better things to do, like sewing. So I could have then said to me, well, I suppose you are, I could have then said to her, well, I suppose you are right. I mean, you have been a man longer than me. You can grow a moustache faster than I can, can't you? And then I go, okay, story time. Once upon a time, there's a little girl who wanted everything to change her way, blah, 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 and tell her basically a social justice warrior story that, she went fishing with chocolate and she liked chocolate and the dog liked chocolate and there's breadcrumbs fell in the fish bowl and from chocolate cake and they ate it, so therefore fish must like chocolate, and there's something wrong with fish if they don't like chocolate, so she's going to wait and she's going to make sure that she makes fish take her chocolate bait. Something like that. Or sort of go down the path of, just telling them how, what was I going to say? How, you've got to understand something and be compassionate about it. No guy in their right fucking mind is going to follow a doctrine where they, sort of losing my train of thought now because I had a lot of stuff that I thought of yesterday and I've sort of forgotten half it now, but sort of basically, I'll just pause for a second. But just basically end up telling them like a little story whereby, they pushed and they done everything the way they wanted it to because the rest of the world hasn't changed. But at the end of the day, the rest of the world isn't going to change because the way things work is that no one with their right mind is going to follow self-destructive behaviour. Everyone wants to know what's in it for them. And if she's looking for a manservant who she's already pre-worked out is of a lower class than her and that she's automatically looked down on it, well, there's no lasting relationship in lack of respect between each side and, something like that. And, maybe you'd want to argue logic, but maybe by simply doing that, I would be wasting time. And I've probably answered my own question. You probably would be wasting time to argue logic with her, you know. But one of the best ways to deal with these people is to sort of, you know, troll them on things like, well, you know, you would know more about it because you've been a man longer than me, haven't you? And, you know, well, at least you grow a moustache faster than me, don't you? Because, first of all, you've brought logic in, but then you've insulted them in the same fucking hit. You know? And by insulting them, you've triggered them even more. Because you've got to realise that these characters are, once again, as I said, not logically based, they're emotionally based. So what fucking drives them insane is not that they lose a logical argument, but just that they're emotionally triggered. Because they're upset by something that they don't like. And, you know, of course, pointing out a few hard facts they don't like, but, see, they just like to deflect facts, usually. You know, and if they're really fucked, they say, oh, it's all just numbers and you can make the numbers say whatever you want. Of course, they won't admit that they've done that, although they usually do. But this is the thing, when you get down to the personal insult level, you know, they really fucking go nuts. And of course there comes a point where you're either blocked or they're just absolutely stunned. They don't know what to fucking say because they're too emotional to even fucking think of a response. You know, the other one I'd love to say to her is, don't be scared. If she's already, you got to remember that movie, some of you might have seen it, some mightn't, 8 Mile. Now they're so-called battling, Eminem and this black guy. They're on the stage singing a song. And Eminem is smart enough to realise that, like, they slander each other. So, this guy's a fucking idiot, he's wearing a tank top that doesn't fit, he's this, he's that, he's fucking living at home with his mummy, blah, 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 blah. And then the black guy will turn around and insult Eminem, and then Eminem goes back and does, and that's the way these battles work. So, they're in the last round, and they're going to go, who the fuck's going to win here? So, Eminem thinks, right, I will insult the shit out of myself. So that's what he does. Instead of insulting the shit out of the black guy in his next rapping rhyme thing, he insults the shit out of himself, and then the music starts up for the black guy, and the black guy is so stunned and he's completely lost for anything else to say that he just, and he doesn't know what to sing. So he just sits there, you know, wobbling his knee to the beat for a second, and it's fairly obvious he seized up. And that's it, game over. Eminem won that quote-unquote rap battle. And that's how you got to do it. So I would quite happily come back to her and say, actually, you're wrong about the pregnant girls. I don't like filling them up. I like trying to see how far, you know, I like milking them and trying to see how far I can get their breast milk to squirt. And that's why I need a tape measure. And that alone, you've insulted yourself, but that would trigger them even more, because even though you've insulted yourself, the insult that she first threw on you, that you're trying to touch up a pregnant woman's body, has been, you know, and she thought she really got down in the gutter, and you've gone even one step further, insulting yourself. And that alone will shock the fucking shit out of them. Like, and they just wouldn't know what to respond with. Now, this is the thing. You can't be scared of insulting yourself, and you can't be emotionally triggered when they insult you. Just think of it like water off a duck's back. Just think, like, consider the source. Consider who you're dealing with here. You're dealing with some 23-year-old little stuck-up fucking brat, you know. She fucking knows everything about the world, but she's fucking clueless, you know. She hasn't had enough life experience to really know how to play the game. And, you know, consider the source. You're dealing with a fucking idiot. Now, when you realise that you're dealing with an idiot, it's like Elvis slandering people about them being fucking not cross-dressing right. You know, he's a closet poof. We all know it. We've all seen his Craigslist ads and all that. So it's sort of like he starts slandering people, and usually he's slandering people for doing the same thing he's doing. So effectively, you know, some people get angry. You slandered me at that, but it's like, it should be like water off a duck's back when you come to realise that the person dishing it out is either doing it themselves, or they're a hypocrite, or they're an idiot. So just consider the source, consider them an idiot, and as a result of them being an idiot, you don't really take their words very seriously. And in that, don't take yourself so seriously. So you can slander them, and you can slander yourself, and you won't get emotionally triggered by anything they say. And so then they've lost their only tool. They've lost their sword that they're using to poke insults at you, to stab you, to try and emotionally hurt you, has been disarmed. So they've lost their only weapon that they had, because their weapon suddenly doesn't work because you're not getting emotionally triggered, and they wanted you to be emotionally hurt and emotionally triggered, but it's not working. So the only thing left for them to do is retreat, in which case they will usually block you and try and hide. And well, that's what a retreat is. It's running away and hiding. The retreat is actually the running away, but then after that there's the hiding. So anyway, that's something I haven't sent, but I could potentially have sent. And I could still send, but you know, what's the point of fighting with someone who likes to fight all day? And that's another thing you've got to realise. Some of these people, they like to fight all day. And that's narcissists. They get their kicks out of it all. You know, so anyway, that's just a few little Saul Alinsky tactics. You can buy the book. It's easier just to go to Free Domain Radio, Stefan Molyneux. And he pretty much reads out a lot of the main points in it and talks them through from a philosophical level, and exactly all the tactics. But they're generally used by the left, but that doesn't mean that other people can't use them. You know, anti-e-biggers can use them, conservatives can use them. You just got to realise that they throw the whole morality thing in the fucking bin, you know, and that's the way they play the game. Of that shit. And I also say that all these things that Saul Alinsky set up, they never had a very long lifespan. These groups that he set up, they never had a long lifespan, especially not back in the days pre-SJW. But anyway, I think I've given enough of a talk there, and that should give you guys a few ideas and assist you in your day-to-day shitstorms, and there you go.